There's no line. I'm competing. I'm going to compete. I've already let you know I'm going to compete. If you're going to throw punches first, I'm going to compete. It's all love. It's basketball. This happens in the NBA.
Chennedy Carter's WNBA career didn't just hit a roadblock, it crashed and burned. Once a rising star, now she's jobless, unwanted, and possibly done for good. But how does one of the most electrifying players in the league go from highlight reels to complete exile? And why is every team shutting the door on her, no matter how talented she is? Stick around, because this story is wilder than you think. Before we get to know how she ended up here, we need to go back to the moment it all started to unravel the moment that turned Carter from a competitor into a cautionary tale. You see, the energy in the arena was electric, the place was packed, and every eye was glued to the court. The Chicago Sky was playing against the Indiana Fever, but all the focus was on one player, Caitlin Clark. She wasn't just playing well, she was in control. She set up plays, hit deep three-pointers, and made defenders look lost, but not everyone was happy. On the other side, Chennedy Carter had a different energy. She wasn't saying much, but her body language told a story of frustration, impatience, and a storm ready to explode. And then it did. Out of nowhere, Carter stepped up and slammed her forearm into Clark's body. The ball wasn't even in play. This wasn't about the game, it was personal. Clark stumbled, clearly shaken. The crowd gasped. The whistle blew, but the damage was already done. This wasn't just a bad play, it sent a message, and the whole league heard it loud and clear. Carter had crossed the line, and what happened next would change everything. The moment the final buzzer sounded, Chennedy Carter's fate was already being decided. Chicago Sky's management didn't wait. Behind closed doors, discussions were brief and the conclusion was unanimous. Carter had to go. This wasn't just about a single cheap shot, it was about a pattern, a growing concern that had finally crossed an unspoken threshold. Within hours, the announcement came. Carter was officially cut from the team. No contract extension, no second chances, just like that, her time in Chicago was over. But the real shock wasn't that Sky let her go, it was what happened next. Normally, when a player of Carter's caliber gets waived, there's a scramble. Teams make calls, agents negotiate, even players with baggage get new opportunities if their talent outweighs their trouble. But this time, nothing. Not a single team reached out. No interest, no whispers of a possible contract. Just a chilling silence that spread across the league. For days, then weeks, the phone stayed quiet. This wasn't just punishment, it was exile. And it wasn't just about one bad decision. This was the result of years of frustration, warning signs ignored, and bridges burned. Carter had always relied on her talent to keep her in the game, but now talent wasn't enough. The WNBA had spoken without saying a word. Carter wasn't just a free agent, she was untouchable, and for the first time, she had to face the brutal reality that no one wanted her anymore. Chennedy Carter's career had been on thin ice for years. The hit on Caitlin Clark wasn't the reason she lost everything, it was just the final straw. Inside WNBA locker rooms, Carter's name sparked the same question over and over. Can we trust her? And the answer? A resounding no. Carter had a reputation, and not the good kind. She wasn't just known for her talent, but for the chaos that followed her. Coaches grew frustrated, teammates felt disrespected, plays were ignored. The warning signs had been flashing for years, and teams took notice. A former teammate, speaking anonymously, didn't sugarcoat it. She had all the talent in the world, but it was always about her. She never listened, and in professional basketball, that kind of attitude doesn't just make enemies, it ends careers. talent alone doesn't keep a player in the league. Teams want leadership, accountability, and someone they can build around. Carter had been given chances, but instead of proving she could be trusted, she proved the opposite. The patience from teams had already worn thin, and the moment her name started coming up in front offices, the response was always the same: pass. Then came the real turning point. WNBA executives started speaking publicly. One league insider didn't hold back. "We wouldn't touch her with a 10-foot pole." And when words like that start coming from the top, the message is clear. No team wanted the baggage, no coach wanted the headache, no locker room wanted the disruption. But if there was any chance left, she destroyed it with one move. She went after Caitlin Clark. Clark isn't just a great player, she's the future of the WNBA, the reason TV ratings are breaking records, the one player the league is banking on to take women's basketball to the next level. And Carter, she made herself the villain in that story. If this had been the other way around, maybe the situation would have played out differently. But Carter went after the star, the face of the league, the player every team wants to protect, and just like that, any hope of redemption disappeared. And now, the doors have closed. Carter didn't just lose a team, she lost the trust of an entire league. Coaches won't fight for her, players don't want her in the locker room, executives see her as a risk not worth taking, and now she's left watching from the outside with no way back in. Losing a job in the WNBA is one thing. Losing every chance to make a comeback, that takes something far worse than bad behavior. It takes refusing to take responsibility. After the game, the cameras were rolling, reporters were waiting. This was Carter's moment to step up, own her actions, and show some level of regret. Instead, she did the opposite. No apology, no explanation, just silence. The league noticed. A WNBA official didn't hold back. Everyone makes mistakes, but when you refuse to own up to them, that's when teams move on. This isn't the NBA where superstars get unlimited chances. In the WNBA, with only 144 roster spots, teams don't just look at talent. They need reliability, professionalism, and trust. Carter's refusal to acknowledge her actions didn't just hurt her reputation, it confirmed every doubt coaches already had about her. Then came the biggest red flag of them all. Her teammates started to distance themselves. The clearest sign? Angel Reese unfollowed her on social media. In today's world, that's not just a small move, it's a public statement. Reese and Carter were seen as close, but even she knew the damage was done. And when your own teammates stop backing you, that's when you know it's really over. Carter had one chance to take control of the situation, to show she could be trusted, and she let it slip away. And now, the WNBA isn't waiting around for her to figure it out. Chennedy Carter isn't just jobless, she's officially shut out. Every WNBA player has made its decision, and the verdict is clear. She's not worth the risk. No calls, no offers, no interest. When a talented player gets cut, teams usually weigh the risks and offer a fresh start. But this time, nothing. A league executive summed it up. She's not part of the future. No team is looking at her. In a league with only 12 teams, once that label sticks, there's no undoing it. And while Carter's name fades, Caitlin Clark keeps growing. Sold-out arenas, record-breaking games, headlines, the very player Carter went after is now the biggest star in the league. The contrast is undeniable. Carter's defining moment, taking a cheap shot at Clark. And now, Clark is dominating while Carter is nowhere to be found. This isn't bad luck, this isn't a misunderstanding, this is self-destruction. The WNBA has already moved forward, and Carter, she's stuck watching from the outside. So, is this really the end of the road for Chennedy Carter? Has she burned every bridge, or is there still a path to redemption? I want to hear from you guys, so drop your thoughts in the comments. Does she deserve another shot, or did she go too far? And if you love deep dives into the biggest WNBA stories, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because trust me, this league never sleeps, and neither do we when it comes to bringing you the most jaw-dropping updates.